The moment I stepped through the front door covered in sweat and drywall dust, I knew something was off. No smile, no casual, "Hey," no kiss on the cheek or little giggle from the hallway. Instead, Amanda stood at the kitchen island, arms crossed, her diamond ring catching light like a threat. "I want a divorce," she said. 4 sharp words fired like gunshots. My breath caught. I was still holding my tool belt in one hand, boots leaving tracks on the tile. My ears rang with silence after her words. It wasn't a fight. There was no yelling, just that cold declaration. "You're serious?" I choked, voice rasping like I'd been choking on drywall all day. Amanda didn't flinch. She tilted her head like I was wasting time. "Dead serious. The papers are on the table." I looked down, manila folder, my name printed in bold across the top. "You're not even going to talk to me about it? After 8 years together? We have a child." She rolled her eyes. "We have Gracie, yes. And she deserves better than watching 2 people pretend they aren't miserable." My heart thundered against my ribs. "You've been planning this for months." She walked around the island, heels clicking like hammers on my spine. "You didn't notice because you're too busy being tired, coming home late, zoning out, talking about how tired you are every damn day." I opened my mouth to argue, but no words came. She was right. I'd been tired, working overtime, pushing myself to keep us afloat, to give Gracie everything she deserved. The house, the school, the groceries that seemed to double in price every other week. "I thought we were just going through a rough patch," I muttered. "Rough patch?" Amanda laughed bitterly. "You haven't touched me in months, haven't looked at me like a woman. Hell, I could have left the house in lingerie and you wouldn't have noticed." Her words hit harder than I expected. My mind raced, and with a sick twist in my gut, I asked, "Are you seeing someone?" She didn't answer at first, just turned her back and poured herself a glass of wine, as calm as if we were discussing what movie to watch. "I'm not obligated to answer that," she said, her tone dripping with disdain. I clenched my jaw, my fists aching to hit something, anything, but I just stood there paralyzed. Gracie's crayon drawings hung beside the fridge, a blue sky, 2 stick figures holding hands. One had my scruffy beard drawn in pink marker. "Daddy?" "I want the house," Amanda continued, "the car, and full custody of Gracie. You can have weekends, maybe." My head snapped toward her. "You want to rip my daughter from me after you—" I cut myself off. I didn't even know the whole truth yet. Amanda sipped her wine, smug. "I'm the one who's home. I feed her. I bathe her. I take her to school. You just show up for bedtime and act like that makes you father of the year." "You're unbelievable," I said through gritted teeth. "No, Michael. I'm done being unbelievable. I'm being real now, and you should try it." That night, I slept on the couch, listening to Amanda move around upstairs like she already owned the place. The laughter from her phone calls, the long pauses in the bathroom. I knew that tone. I'd heard it when we first started dating. Whispered giggles, voice hushed, soft breathing between sentences. She was already with someone else. And the worst part? I still loved her. Even after the venom, the betrayal, the arrogance. I still remembered the girl who wore my flannel shirts and danced barefoot in our kitchen. But that girl was gone. 3 days later, I met with a lawyer named Julian, a friend of a friend. Worn down office, scuffed wooden desk, shelves overflowing with paper. He leaned forward, fingers steepled. "She's going for the jugular," I said. "She's not the first," he replied, "but we're going to make damn sure she doesn't win." Julian was blunt. Told me she could get the house, the car, and possibly primary custody if I didn't fight back hard. I needed proof. Texts, receipts, anything showing infidelity or manipulation. I went home and started digging, and what I found made my blood go cold. Late-night charges to a hotel 5 miles from our house. Uber rides to unfamiliar addresses. A second phone tucked behind a bathroom cabinet. Photos, screenshots, chat logs. A man named Tristan. His words filled with desire. Compliments. Plans for someday with Amanda and Gracie. Plans that didn't include me. It wasn't just cheating. She'd built an entire alternate life behind my back. When I confronted her, she didn't deny it. She didn't cry. She didn't even blink. "You weren't enough," she said. That night, I made a vow. Not just to fight back, not just to win, but to destroy every lie she'd ever told. Not with fists, not with screams, with truth, with patience, and with a kind of revenge so perfect, so precise, it would leave her gasping. I wasn't the man I used to be. I was the man she created, and she'd regret ever thinking I was weak. The days that followed felt like I was walking through a fog, except the fog was made of betrayal and burnout dreams. I moved through our home like a ghost, Gracie's tiny footsteps echoing louder than mine. Amanda, meanwhile, paraded around like a queen finally freed from her crown. She blasted music while getting ready to go out, wore makeup to the kitchen, left the scent of another man's cologne on her scarf. "You should really start packing," she said one morning over her almond milk latte. "I want you out by next week. Tristan's allergic to dog hair and, well, your presence." "I'm not leaving," I said, calm but sharp. "Not until this goes through court. This is still my house." Amanda clicked her tongue and looked up from her phone. "That's cute. You actually think you matter." Gracie tugged at my shirt, her sleepy eyes blinking up at me. "Daddy, why are you sleeping in the garage?" I crouched beside her, brushing a curl behind her ear. "Because sometimes grown-ups need space too, sweetheart." Amanda snorted. "You like space from people who pretend to be men." She said it loud enough to leave scars. I'd installed a folding mattress in the utility room. The air smelled like paint thinner and old oil, but it was better than the battlefield that used to be our bedroom. I spent my nights there scrolling through job boards on my cracked phone, calculating bills on crumpled receipts, and imagining the moment Amanda's smugness would finally crack. The lawyer's advice looped in my mind. Stay calm. Document everything. Don't react. But how do you stay calm when your entire life is collapsing and the woman you once worshipped is standing on the rubble in heels? That weekend, I took Gracie to the park. I needed air. She needed joy. She ran to the swings laughing, arms outstretched like she was trying to catch the wind. A part of me wondered, was she even mine? No, I couldn't think like that. She felt like mine. Every scraped knee, every tea party, every sleepy whisper of, "I love you, Daddy." That was real, but still, the seed of doubt had been planted. Amanda's secret life, Tristan, the hotel receipts, the late-night calls, watered it like poison. That night, after putting Gracie to bed, I sat on the garage floor and made a list on the back of an old electric bill. Revenge, not rage. Truth, not war. I would play her game. I'd let her feel victorious. I'd give her every opportunity to lie, to brag, to incriminate herself, because when the moment came, I didn't want payback. I wanted devastation. Legal, airtight, undeniable. I needed leverage. A week later, I got my first lucky break. Julian called. "Mike, you're not going to like this, but we just received a letter from her lawyer. They're filing for full custody and claiming emotional instability on your part." "What?" I barked into the phone. "They're saying you've been verbally aggressive, showing signs of depression, and, this is wild, she included some bizarre accusation that you threatened her in a text message." "She's lying," I snapped. "Of course she is, but that's how this game is played. She's trying to push your buttons. If you lose it, she gets what she wants." I stared at the hole I'd punched in the drywall 3 nights ago. "Don't give her ammunition, Mike. Let's get her on record. We'll set up a mediation meeting. You'll stay calm, and I'll handle the rest." That night, Amanda came home late again. Tipsy, tossing her heels in the living room like it was her personal runway. "I saw your little lawyer friend filed a motion," she said, lips glossy with wine. "Adorable." She leaned on the counter, eyes half-lidded. "You don't get it, do you? Tristan's rich, like actually rich. He's taking me and Gracie to the Caymans this summer. I'm finally done living like a peasant." I said nothing, just kept drying dishes. My silence made her bolder. Do you know what it's like to be wanted, Mike? To have a man who doesn't come home smelling like insulation and failure? I turned to her slowly. Do you know what it's like to raise a child alone? Because that's what's coming. She rolled her eyes. You're not getting custody. I'm not aiming for custody, I said quietly. Her brow furrowed, caught off guard. I'm aiming for the truth. That threw her off. For the first time, her smirk wavered. I walked away satisfied. She didn't know what I knew. Not yet. And when I brought it all to light, she'd wish she never underestimated me. Julian and I started gathering every thread. Emails, texts, voicemails from Tristan, receipts, bank statements, social media posts. We traced her exact timeline. Her lies overlapped. One date in particular stood out. An expensive spa weekend just before Gracie's second birthday. Amanda had told me it was a girls' trip, but the hotel record showed she'd booked a couple's suite with Tristan. That was the weekend Gracie got sick, and I stayed home alone nursing her fever while Amanda sent me selfies in a robe. I clenched my fist so tight my nails dug into my palms. I wasn't just angry, I was betrayed on a cellular level. She used me, lied to me, built a family on a foundation of rot, and smiled in my face the entire time. Now was my turn. We filed for a paternity test under emergency motion. Julian presented evidence of infidelity and potential fraud. It was approved in days. Amanda laughed when she got the notification. You think I care about a DNA test? She said, sipping wine. Please, that's just desperate. But her hand shook when she held the paper. Because deep down, she knew. She knew exactly what she'd done. The day of the test, she wore sunglasses in silence. Gracie clung to me, asking if we were going on a trip. I told her it was just a silly test, like the ones she took at school. The nurse swabbed our cheeks. Amanda didn't speak a word, but her jaw clenched like it was made of steel. 2 weeks later, the results came in, and everything shattered. The envelope trembled in my hands as I stepped out onto the front porch of Julian's office. I didn't want to open it inside. I needed air. I needed distance. I needed silence when my world exploded. The sun was too bright, the sidewalk too still. I tore the seal. The words were cold, clinical. Probability of paternity, 0.0%. My knees buckled. I sat down hard on the steps, the paper floating slightly in the breeze before I grabbed it again, eyes rereading every word, praying, begging for a mistake. But it was clear. Gracie wasn't mine, not biologically, not genetically. Amanda had known all this time. She let me name her, let me rock her to sleep, let me think she had my smile, my laugh, my blood. She let me believe while she whispered promises to another man. I didn't cry. I couldn't. My emotions were raw cement, poured in, hardened over everything soft in me. All I felt was betrayal, and something else too. Fire. The kind of fire that doesn't rage. It smolders. Controlled. Calculated. Patient. I picked up the phone and called Julian. She lied, I said, and I want her to pay. His voice on the other end was steady. Then let's start burning it down. We filed a motion to amend the custody and support agreement, citing paternity fraud. In our state, if you could prove you were deceived and paying for a child who wasn't biologically yours, you could sue for reimbursement and potentially press charges for fraud. Amanda's attorney tried to stall, tried to dismiss, tried to argue that paternity was irrelevant because of the emotional bond. Emotionally bonded? Sure. But emotionally bonded while she fed me lies and used my love to bankroll her affair? No, that wasn't motherhood. That was manipulation. We subpoenaed her emails, her call logs, financial statements. Tristan's name popped up like a roach under every rock we turned. Trips, gifts, late-night phone calls, bank transfers. And then we found it. The real bombshell. A set of emails between Amanda and Tristan sent over a year before she even got pregnant, openly mocking me, calling me a free ride, telling him, Michael will never know, He's too busy playing house. They planned it. She got pregnant knowing I wasn't the father. She let me raise a child that wasn't mine. On purpose. Julian stared at the screen in stunned silence. This isn't just betrayal. This is premeditated fraud with evidence. We don't just have a case, we have a criminal case. We filed everything. And just like that, Amanda's perfect little empire began to quake. She showed up to the next court hearing wearing black, like she was the widow in a soap opera. Fake tears, dramatic sighs. Her lawyer spun a tale about me being vengeful and bitter after a mutual separation. Julian leaned forward. Your Honor, we have evidence that Miss Holman not only knew Mr. Rivers was not the biological father. She orchestrated his involvement, encouraged his financial support, and defrauded him of over $80,000 in support, housing, and childcare over the past 5 years. He was even jailed over missed payments for a child that wasn't his. The judge, an older man with silver hair and a gaze that could cut steel, lifted an eyebrow. Do you have proof? Julian nodded. Emails, bank records, witness statements, including one from Miss Holman's former friend who confirms she boasted about the deception. Amanda went pale. For the first time in weeks, she didn't speak, didn't smirk, didn't sip her wine in front of me like she was invincible. The judge ordered an immediate forensic review and temporary suspension of all support payments. He also ordered Amanda to appear at a fraud hearing. The expression on her face as the gavel came down, that was the first taste of justice. But it wasn't enough. I wanted more. Not out of spite, out of necessity. Because Gracie, the innocent child caught in Amanda's web, deserved better. She deserved truth. She deserved someone who wouldn't weaponize her for money and revenge. And if Tristan, the so-called biological father, thought he was going to swoop in now that the mess was cleaned up, he had another thing coming. I called Brandon, the friend who had first tipped me off while I was rotting in a holding cell. You saved my life, I said. He laughed, voice heavy with guilt. I should have said something sooner, man. I just didn't know how. Don't worry, I told him. I'm going to take it from here. He offered to testify, told Julian everything he knew. The parties, the drunken confessions, the smirks Amanda used to give when I showed up at barbecues with Gracie, oblivious and proud. I just thought you should know, Brandon added. Tristan's been bragging that he's going to get full custody now. Said Amanda promised him they'd be a family after you were out of the picture. I nearly crushed my phone in my hand. They didn't just ruin me. They planned to replace me. But I still had one card left to play. The custody hearing. The one where I wouldn't just expose Amanda, I'd expose both of them. The day of the custody hearing arrived. I stood in front of the courthouse in a borrowed suit. Steady as stone, Amanda strutted in behind me, arm in arm with Tristan. Her eyes full of venom, his arrogance. He didn't even glance at me. They thought it was already over. They had no idea what was coming. Inside, the judge opened with the results of the paternity test. Gracie is not the biological child of Michael Rivers. However, he added sharply, we're not just here for DNA. We're here for truth and for what's best for this child. Amanda's lawyer tried spinning the same story. Mutual love, emotional bonding. No intent to defraud. But then Julian stood up. We have emails, Your Honor, between Miss Holman and Mr. Preston dating back to before the pregnancy, discussing the plan to deceive Mr. Rivers. We also have sworn testimony from a mutual acquaintance. This was calculated. She stole years from my client, financially and emotionally. Amanda shifted in her seat. Her smile cracked. Then came the moment that silenced the entire courtroom. Julian clicked the screen. An email popped up. Let him pay for everything. He's dumb enough to raise a kid that isn't his. Amanda's voice. Her words. Her name signed at the bottom. The judge leaned back slowly. Miss Holman, you've committed fraud, and you've weaponized your daughter in the process. Amanda shot up, panicking. Wait, you can't. That's taken out. The judge raised a hand. Sit down, then, turning to Tristan. And you, sir, have been invisible. No financial support, no emotional bond, no intent to step up, and now suddenly you want full custody? Tristan looked stunned, stammering. The gavel dropped once again. Temporary full custody granted to Mr. Rivers. All support payments suspended. Miss Holman, your case will be forwarded for criminal fraud proceedings. Amanda's scream echoed as two officers stepped forward. You ruined me, she spat, glaring at me with raw hatred, but I didn't flinch. I had nothing left to lose except the one thing I came to protect. Gracie. The house was quiet again. Not because Amanda had left, but because she wasn't coming back. The fraud conviction hit harder than anyone expected. 3 years, no bail, a heavy fine. The court ruled she'd intentionally deceived me, exploited the system, and caused measurable emotional and financial damage. The judge called it one of the most blatant, cold-blooded paternity scams he'd ever seen. Tristan vanished, disappeared after the hearing, left town before child services could even question him. No fight, no goodbye, just gone. I wasn't surprised. Men like him don't stay when it matters. But I did. Gracie sat across from me at the breakfast table, swinging her little feet beneath the chair, her purple pajamas covered in glittery unicorns. She smiled at me, wide and pure. Can we go to the park later, Daddy? My throat tightened. She wasn't mine, but she was. Of course, sweetheart. And because love like this wasn't conditional. It wasn't about DNA. It was built on scraped knees, bedtime stories, midnight fevers, and tiny hands squeezing yours when the world feels too big. And when she hugged me now, she didn't care whose blood ran in her veins. She knew who her father was. Still, the nights were heavy sometimes. I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering how I didn't see it sooner. How I let Amanda chip away at me piece by piece while smiling through her teeth. But the pain didn't harden me. It clarified me. I took the settlement money from the fraud lawsuit and started over. Small apartment, new job at a local contractor's firm. Less money. More time. More life. Gracie adapted slowly. She asked about Amanda sometimes. Is Mommy mad at me? I always gave her the same answer. No, baby. Mommy made grown-up mistakes, but they were grown-up mistakes. Never your fault. And when she asked softly one night before bed, Am I still your daughter? I broke down, held her close, and whispered, You'll always be my daughter. Always. Months passed, then a year. One spring afternoon, I stood at her preschool graduation. She wore a tiny cap, gripping a construction paper diploma. When her name was called, Gracie Rivers, she ran to me, jumped into my arms, and I knew. Amanda could keep her lies. Tristan could vanish with his cowardice. I had something real, something no one could ever fake. Love.